Having problems with audio from your streaming media receiver? Not sure where to start or how to troubleshoot this? Stay tuned and I will show you how to get that taken care of. Now let's get started. Welcome to another edition of Tech Bites with Ron Nutter, your home for all things relating to smart home technology. In this episode, we're going to talk about troubleshooting streaming media receiver issues. Hi, I'm Ron Nutter, and we're going to be working on this together. This content is also available as an Amazon flash briefing or podcast. Please go to techbiteswithronnutter.com for more information. For any items mentioned in this episode, there are affiliate links in the description. If you click on these links, I will get a small commission, but that won't affect the price you pay for the item. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on subscribe now and enable notifications. If this video helps you or provides value, please click on that like button. Thumbs up. Here's what we're going to be going over. We're going to be dealing with how to tie into the streaming media receiver, how to kind of deal with some of the cabling issues that may in fact cause this, how to deal with things from the television side of things, and I'm going to show you a nice little test tool that may make all of this a little bit easier to figure out, and it may even give you some options for tying it into your home stereo system. Now, let's get you taken care of. We're first going to start with talking about the different streaming media receivers. And there's, as with anything, there's all sorts of varieties out there. So the troubleshooting steps that I'm going to discuss are ones that we'll call it generic, because there's going to be variations to each one of them. So whether you're talking about the Roku Premier, which is one that's been out for, I think, a couple of years. So it's well tried and proven. And you can see here on the back, it's only going to have 3 connections. It's going to have Ethernet, it's going to have the HDMI, and the power. So if the light comes on when you plug it in, you're pretty good with power. The challenge is going to become is if you are not getting picture or more or likely audio. Audio is generally the problem that I come up against. And that's where, if you have some ideas in mind of things to start looking at, and that's going to get you started. So let's delve into the menu on the Roku Premier. So for the Amazon Fire TV, it's going to be kind of the same situation. So let's go here. Actually, I don't know why I punch that one up. Let's go into the menus here. And if you go down here into settings, audio. Now, if you're having problems with the audio making it out, first to make sure that you are talking to it in the language that it's expecting. So if you're not getting any audio at all, or it sounds like fingernails on a chalkboard, that's usually an indication that how the streaming receiver is feeding it could be a problem. So as you can see, you've got a whole host of, whoops, got off the wrong menu here. You can see you've got a whole host of options. You got Dolby Digital, Dolby Digital Plus, PCM stereo. You can usually leave it at auto detect, but sometimes depending on your home stereo, or even the TV, it may not diagnose it correctly. So that's where you may have to start stepping through the options. Now, I recently put a sound bar in place, and the challenge I got into there is the sound bar. Well, it was an economy model, but I got nothing but screeching out of it. And that's where, once I went into the options, and I think I was like on Dolby Digital or something like that, that I just started walking through the options. Started with the basic one first, BCM stereo, and then went from there. Now, you also have the option, at least on the Rokus, you can go stereo or auto stereo. So there apparently is, I guess when you select other options, it's going to have additional selections there. So always do a little bit of digging in the menus to see if that's going to make a difference for you. And it's going to be some troubleshooting here and there. Now, if you're still having challenges and nothing seems to work right, the next thing you can try to do is we'll go down here into system and then system restart. Now, I have had this occasionally fix the problem, primarily if you had say a power outage and the streaming receiver came up before the TV, no minor problem with that happening. That's just a matter of which device starts up the quickest. So that would be an option to consider. So you might, just a simple restart may fix it. Now, if that doesn't, then the next thing you're going to want to look at is thinking about maybe swapping out the cable. So I always keep a supply of HDMI cables around. You never know when you're going to need them. And let's face it, for the price you're paying for most of them, they're not going to last forever. So I always, if I'm not using it, I try to make sure I keep the caps on handy and put them over the end to protect those. And that's something else before you go swapping out cables. Try unplugging and plugging the cable, HDMI cable, back in on the TV as well as the streaming receiver. Sometimes the pins in the cable get a little dirty, and I guess the proper term for that would be oxidation. So that is another way to do it as well. Now, before you go swapping out cables or maybe digging into the TV, which is certainly the TV is an option to go through, is try this little device that I'm going to show you right here. And this is from a company called Linkfor. It's Linkfor, and this is what's called an HDMI media extractor. And it's got HDMI in, which will be coming from the streaming receiver, HDMI out, and you have the option of feeding, if you've got an older stereo system, feeding it over the two RCA connectors, or you can put a headset in up front. Now, this would go between your streaming receiver and the TV, and this will actually strip the audio out, so you'll be able to see it's even making it out of the streaming receiver. And if it's not, even if you go down at this point, go all the way down to stereo, turn off all the advanced features in the audio. If you're not getting audio to here, and of course, obviously, you're going to make sure that you got power plugged in here, that's a good indication you may have a problem with your streaming receiver. You can try, if power cycling doesn't do it, then the next thing I would suggest is to look at doing a hardware reset. Just totally flush it out, because it's possible with all the electronics, these things have got in, that whatever's handling the HDMI audio coming out of the stream receiver might be hung in a condition to where it's turned off, but it doesn't realize that it is. Again, that's something to look into. So I think we've pretty well covered the differences in the streaming audio receivers. Now, with the cables, and we'll pull my trusty friend out here, there's no one right or wrong way cable. You just got to make sure you've got the proper ends on both, and usually with the streaming receivers, they're going to have the full HDMI coming out on both ends, and most televisions will have that. So that is something to, you can swap that out easy enough. I actually had a satellite receiver one time that would go half of the way through the post-process startup, for those of you who don't have a computer background, and it would just stop. And I called the satellite provider. Oh, the problem is your TV. Oh, the problem is your TV. It's not our receiver. Well, they were right and they were wrong. I just happened as a last-ditch effort, and that's when it stopped being last-ditch and started being more of the different options that I would try, is I always started keeping a supply of HDMI cables around, because if I unplugged the HDMI cable, satellite receiver came up just fine. If I plugged in a brand new cable, was just fine. There was a problem. That's what told me the cable was it. And there is a reasonably priced HDMI cable tester if you want to go that route, and you can always just have a few spare cables to work with as well as an option. It doesn't hurt to have, at any given time, I probably got 5 to 10 of these around the house, because cables do go bad. Occasionally you're trying things out and you need to swap cables. So it's always good to have spares. And besides, let's face it, if you're running any sort of a home theater system, you can never have enough HDMI cables. So that's going to be well worth the effort. And you can get some cheap ones if you want to get an expensive one or two. It's your call. But always have those at the hand, because it's a very economical troubleshooting step. Now, on to the third part, the television. The same process there. It's possible, especially if you've had a recent power surge or power going on and off, the TV might be the problem. So I would try unplugging and plugging the cable at the TV as a starter. If you're still not having success there, and you verified with this HDMI audio extractor, the audio is coming out, then that would start to indicate a possible problem at the TV based on what I'm laying out for details. So at that point, you could certainly change out the cable if you haven't already done so. Then you could actually try an indifferent HDMI port on the TV, assuming you have multiple HDMI ports. Some of your medium to higher end sets will usually have at least 4, sometimes maybe more. Your lower end TVs may only have 1. So if you only have 1, or you've tried the other HDMI ports and you're still having a problem, then you're going to be down to one of 2 things. You can try doing a hardware reset of the TV, or, and if that doesn't do it, then I would say power cycle the TV, bring it up, let it set for about 15-20 seconds, let it kind of get settled in, then plug in the streaming receiver. It may be it's a timing thing. That's why there's no one straightforward right or wrong way to do this. It's a matter of what you find is going to work for you, because there's enough variables. I can't just give you do all these 10 steps in this order. If it hits this step, it's this problem. It's learning how to troubleshoot your particular situation. So this is something that it's really, once you've done it a couple of times, you'll be an old hand at this. You won't have any problems, but certainly something you need to be aware of, because as you get more devices around the house that are using HDMI, if you've got TVs in multiple rooms, knowing how to do some troubleshooting will make some potentially unhappy campers a little happier, a little quicker. So again, I'm going to put a link to both the link for unit you've seen here, the audio extractor, as well as the HDMI cable tester in the show notes, to give you something to add potentially to your bag of tricks to have as testing, and certainly get some extra HDMI cables if you don't already have a few on hand. YouTube outro. If you are watching this on YouTube, you're going to see videos on the screen that are similar to the one that you're watching right now, or other content that YouTube thinks you might be interested in. If this video helps you or provides value, please click on that like button, thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on subscribe now and enable notifications. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.